Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Courtside Story. This is going to be a series of versus videos where we talk about two players and where we argue for each one of them individually. And to a large extent, these are players who we actually believe is better than the other. So it's not like we're just like making arguments for the sake of making them. We actually believe that these players are better. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about Allen Iverson and Dwyane Wade. And I personally think even leaving aside the championships, okay, like leaving aside all the accolades, I genuinely think that people when they talk about Allen Iverson, like they do tend to get caught up a lot in the flair and the likable personality of Allen Iverson, right? He obviously was an insane player, insane scorer, but like as an all-around complete basketball player, I can't put him above Dwayne Wade.
Okay, no, the thing is, I just think that it often boils down to what kind of metrics you use to judge these players, right? And
Hmm.
when I look at it, when I consider the things that I give a shit about when I'm watching basketball, when I look at what I look for in a player,
Hmm.
like I would pick Allen Iverson over most dudes, like not just over Dwayne Wade, but over most dudes, like
I
even
mean, I
over
think
a bunch of big guys.
over most dudes is like very reasonable because Allen Iverson's definitely. I mean, between people always say that Allen Iverson and Dwayne Wade are competing for that number three shooting guard spot, and like depending on how you feel about Jerry West, maybe they're not even doing that. Like they may be competing for four. But yeah, bro, I think like
I think they're competing for four, just to get it on the record. But yeah.
yeah, you also got Jerry West at number three.
Yeah, he's a fucking logo. I don't know
He
what's
is
wrong with our
monster.
damn generation.
I think people. I think like I've seen some people say that he played more of a point guard role and all that. But like I haven't watched enough Jerry West to make that decision. But I have watched a little bit of Allen Iverson, Dwayne Wade, and bro, Iverson was just a monstrous scorer. Like I know I'm arguing for Dwayne Wade, but just watching Iverson, the angles that he could find, the kind of like slashes, the cuts that he could make, and the finishing, it's very Kyrie-esque. And I don't know, when I think about it, it's on par with Kyrie, even though Kyrie is considered one of the best finishers of all time. I think Iverson probably set the tone. He started the path for guards to be able to score that much, shoot first, ask questions later kind of play style.
See, I'd contend that I get where you're coming from with Kyrie being this goated inside finisher as a guard, but
Hmm.
I think Iverson is as good, if not better, at that. So while Kyrie sort of relies on throwing it off the glass, using that English that he's so good at, like spinning the
Hmm.
ball at like an unbelievable angle, I
Hmm.
think AI is more of like athletically getting to the hoop.
Hmm.
And I don't think any guard, especially at AI size, has done that like AI.
Hmm. I
And
mean,
that way,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, when we talk about athletic finishes, we have to talk about Dwayne Wade, right? Because that guy is also a monstrous finisher. Like I know we give a lot of credit to AI for being that size and finishing, but Dwayne Wade was also 6'4" and dunking over dudes. I mean, in the end, it comes down to a different kind of finishing altogether. Like,
D Wade is 6'4" if you cut like an inch or two of his height.
hey,
And AI is 6 feet nothing if you add an inch or two to his height.
no, dude,
Like,
Dwayne Wade was solid 6'4", nothing more. Nothing. Dude, he didn't look tall. He didn't look tall at all.
man,
He's
we're
much shorter
arguing his
than
fucking
Kobe and all.
height as if he's my neighbor, bro. Fuck that. Like,
Yeah,
okay, irrespective of what his height is, I just think that it's not like we've never seen talent perform at Dwayne Wade's size, weight, and height. But with AI, his size and his weight and his height becomes a whole lot more relevant. Like, so I
yeah.
was reading about this, right? And AI is the lightest and shortest dude to be picked with the first overall draft pick, which
Well,
is
yeah,
quite wild. Like, if you
because
think about
I
it.
doubt anyone under 6'1" has been picked since AI.
Yeah, dude, if I was a scout, I would not pick a dude at 6 foot nothing unless it was Al Iverson.
Is
Like, that
very
is the one guy I can justify.
is very risky, dude. Like the guy, you haven't seen this guy play against NBA defense. He's 6 feet. He's very short. Like and maybe Chris Paul. Actually, I'd contend maybe Chris Paul, but he's also like what 6'1", 6'2".
See,
And he
that's
had.
also like a retrospective thing you're saying about Chris
Hmm,
Paul. Like, think
yeah,
about it. Like, when Chris Paul is entering the league, you can't know this guy is going to have a higher basketball IQ than anyone and he's going to fuck shit up, right? With Allen Iverson, you can tell this dude is athletically a monster. Okay.
hmm,
He was a two-time DPOI in college.
Yeah.
All right, in college ball, both years running. Yes,
Allen Iverson.
he was a two-time. Yes, Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson is defensively a monster. 3-time steals champion.
I would
Also
disagree. I would
in the league.
disagree. Like the steal, I feel this is where like the misconception comes in because he has three steal. He's led the league in steals 3 times. But Allen Iverson was. I'll give you the fact that he was an incredibly smart defender. Right. He knew how to play the passing lanes. He knew how to lull people, lull offensive players into sort of a comfort zone and then pick their pockets and like pick off passes that people thought he wouldn't be able to get to. And that's because he was incredibly fast, right? That's because he had an incredible quickness and lightning ability to change pace and direction. But like that's where it ends, right? When you talk about defense, and actually this is the bulk of my argument, like a huge part of my argument as to why Dwyane Wade is better than Allen Iverson. But Dwyane Wade is a monster defensively. You've seen him like have so much of an impact when it comes to defensive end, like guarding Kobe, guarding like the opponent team's best scoring guard, their best scoring option, right? And that's something you could never.
Dude, like no one really ever guarded Kobe. Like who guarded Kobe as in got a buzzer beater hit on your face. One of the most iconic buzzer beaters in basketball.
He did his best.
History,
He did his best.
Man, no, see, I get your point. I'm not going to disrespect D Wade. D Wade is one of the greatest shot blocking guards, if not the greatest shot blocking guards to ever do. Right. So I'll give him that. But I think you've brushed off 3 steals titles, saying, oh, like AI could steal, but that doesn't mean he's a good defender. No, like intrinsically, both of these guys are great defenders. You can make a case that D Wade may have been a better defender, but AI has 3 steals titles. Secondly, I knew you would fucking say this shit. Which is why I went looked up. This man has 2 DPOIs in college. Man. He's actually a defender. It's not just about the steals.
He's a decent defender, but he's not someone you
I'll give to you is. So one thing I'll give to you is later in his career, perhaps as early as his Denver days, 06 onwards, I'd say AI's defense slacked off. Okay, later in his career, he really was not as sharp when it came to on-ball defense. Okay, but in his Philly days, like I would not make this argument that he was a bad defender. He lacks size, and that hurt him a lot of the time. If you get mismatched on AI, you can destroy him inside, sure.
Yeah.
But that said, like he's a perennial risk to pick your pocket, whether it's in Philly or in Denver. And I think when he had his athletic prime, when he was athletically capable, the dude was a great defender. Like, and I think so was D Wade. Like, I don't think either of these guys have a particular edge on defense. Like, I think
Dwyane Wade definitely has a huge edge on defense.
I get it. Yeah. I get that because see, there are more players you can put D Wade on in the league than AI. That's it. It's that simple because like the skill and size difference comes into picture in that situation. Okay, not just size. I will also agree skill wise because D Wade could block that shot.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't say it's just blocking. Like if I look at series where like D Wade has another thing that people forget, right, is when people think of D Wade's career, they think of 2006 and they think of the LeBron years. And this is a huge reason why people like sort of think that D Wade's prime was a lot shorter than it actually was, right? And that's an argument that people make against him, that his peak was shorter than most NBA superstars. But Dwyane Wade had incredible seasons in between 2006, 7, 2007, 8, 9 was his best season, right? He got, and this is like they get overlooked because he had pretty ass teams those years. They got bounced in the first round a lot of times. I think all of those times. But like,
I can take what you said and replace the word D Wade with AI, and it would be factual. Like it's still true. Dude, the same thing is true for AI. Like both of these guys suffered from this bullshit problem.
But see, the AI, I'll agree, was perhaps was a more offensive. Like he carried the load of the offense better than D Wade did, right? Because AI had. And like people do argue, and we are talking about maybe shooting guard versus shooting guard. Although I think like in this series, position shouldn't be considered too much. People consider AI a shooting guard, right? But when I see actual games of AI, when I see actual stats that AI has put up, it's insane how great of a passer he is, right? He's one of the greatest, like.
I was just going to bring that up like in a bit. Like AI as someone who creates plays is super underrated. Like I'd argue he's as good a passer as Curry or one of the modern PGs that we give so much credit to for playmaking and like carrying the offense.
But yeah, so like that's what AI was one of those guys who like when he got up, he was able to hang long enough and he had the decision making in the air to pass it off to an open man. He could in the transition, he was a great passer. He just had he had a great passing sense in general. But this is also somewhere where I say D Wade is not really he's not the passer that AI was, but he definitely was this. He could be the secondary star, right? And I don't feel we've ever seen AI in that kind of role, right? Where, and this is why again, like I bring up the fact that D Wade was a better, more complete basketball player, because when LeBron James came to Miami, D Wade was able to transition very gracefully into that secondary star role, right? He was able to defer more to LeBron James while still keeping up insane stats. Like he averaged, I think, what 20 in the first season of my LeBron, D Wade, Bosch, Miami Heat. He, Dirk Nowitzki, and people say that Dirk Nowitzki was indisputably the greatest player of that series. Dwyane Wade averaged arguably better stats than him. He had 26.5, which to Dirk's 26. He had like I think maybe 1 or 2 rebounds less than him. He averaged more assists. He averaged better shooting numbers, like in terms of efficiency. So Dwyane Wade gets a bit overlooked that series because they lost, but he was still incredible during even playing next to a co-star like LeBron James.
I agree, but like in this context, since you brought up the post-star thing, firstly, like I can't give a dude that much credit for fitting in with LeBron James. Okay, you have a fucking goat. It can't be that difficult. Like, no, I'm just saying, like, in the sense that obviously I have to credit you if you win 3 chips, no matter what, right? But the situation is like LeBron is not like the kind of guy that is really hard to fit in with. He also runs the offense a lot. He makes
Yeah,
plays.
yeah.
So, and in that context, I think AI's Denver days get super overlooked. Dude, like AI in Denver, like I wouldn't like go so far as to say secondary star, but at least co-star for sure, alongside Melo.
I mean,
And
Melo, he was a
in this
very, very
situation,
young
like
Melo.
Melo was when
AI was
no,
the
it was
better
a very
leader
young
on
Melo,
that
but
team, I feel. But like Melo, he was a very
dude,
young
I
Melo.
think this is one problem with AI. Okay, when he's a vet, also he's not a great leader, and
He's
I'm one of
local.
the biggest AI fans you find. Yeah, I fucking love AI, but like, dude, leadership is a separate thing. Okay, this dude would not show up to practice. He won't show. Dude, there was a Philly game. Okay, like I think it was a fan service game, the fan appreciation game,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the players are supposed to show up 90 minutes prior to the game to like do fan service, chill out, all that. AI and Chris Webber showed up at tip off. The
Bro,
coach, I think, the coach at the time, I think it was Chris Ford or someone. He said, "I'm not playing these guys." He sat them and they got fined and shit. So as a
dude, I
leader,
think
I will accept all of that.
I saw something where I think JR and AI or someone in AI were playing pool between the quarters in Denver games and shit. They used to just chill. Man, AI and JR were not a good duo, bro. I mean, they were a good duo, but they weren't a good duo.
They are a good duo above the rim, not
Yeah,
below it. So,
yeah.
like, the thing is, see, I think AI, the problem is, okay, like, all of this to me is eclipsed by sheer unadulterated talent. Like, I don't think we've seen a talent like that in the league. Like, dude, and in one of his relatively worst seasons where AI missed, like, I think 2040, he played like 48 games, okay, for the year. And in that season, he still, like, everyone says, oh, AI was shit, they got fucked over. He averaged 26.4 with like 7 assists. So, like, statistically, the
Yeah. That
impact is
was
there nonetheless.
yeah.
And, like, one other thing is, like, so in that 2001, like, the year AI carried them to the finals, and then, like, they lost Kobe Shaq Lakers, famous one, Ty Lue step over, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was reading about that season, and it says, like, Philly were horrible up until that point, and AI had to carry them. But they made some notable additions in the 2000-2001 season, who were Aaron McKee, Dikembe Mutombo, and Eric Snow. Dude, if your notable additions include Eric Snow and a version of Dikembe Mutombo who's old enough to be AI's father,
Bro.
I don't know how you can expect this team. Dude, they went as far as the NBA Finals.
Dude,
Okay,
okay,
and I
like
think, like,
again, this is like I'm
yeah,
arguing for D Wade, but that Allen Iverson team was the only team to beat LA in the postseason. They gave them their only loss.
exactly.
Yeah,
And the West is harder than the East. Keeping this in mind, the Lakers faced the toughest teams in the league. Like, I would
yeah.
argue the 76ers may have had the easier path to the final. But in the final, they still stole a game from LA when other
Game
extremely
one.
competent like teams there is exactly game one. Like, dude, if I'm sure if we were like old enough to watch that live back then, we would have lost our shit. Like,
Yeah.
everyone would have said that's a sweep, but he would have given a whole franchise poop
That's what.
with that one game.
Yeah.
And it's his playoff career high also. It's 48 points he dropped.
48
And like
points.
AI,
Insane. He's the
yeah,
like that I think is probably the greatest like carrying of the offensive burden that we've ever seen in NBA history.
agreed. And I think like just these kind of, in terms of these individual achievements, I got to give it to AI over D Wade. There are other aspects where I agree that D Wade like comes through on his own. Okay, he's like, I don't want to underrate D Wade's ability as a a multi-level scorer, as a great defender. His impact on the court is great, but I think on and off the court, AI as an individual holds more value. Like, dude, even off the court, the kind of impact AI brought to the basketball world, the tattoos, the hair, like a lot of it
That's
is
influence.
extremely iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cultural impact is not something I can look past. Like, because like that is, I know as a kid when I
I'd say
watched basketball, like
D-Wade also,
AI
see,
was one of my favorite
D-Wade is
players.
also, I have to argue for D-Wade in terms of cultural impact. He was the franchise of Miami for a very long amount of time. People will
Yeah, but
argue
the
that,
franchise of Miami was quite ass for that period of time. It's not like it was
yeah,
the most
Alonzo Mourning and
popular
all.
or the most.
But yeah,
Yeah,
see,
like Alonso, yeah.
the thing is like
Go on.
he's won that 2006 championship, was very like iconic in NBA history. He has been a part of LeBron James and Dwyane Wade, like that era of the Miami Heat, which is also quite iconic in NBA history. And yeah, bro, I think being like the greatest shot blocker of all, like the greatest guard shot blocker was also like, I mean, okay, I won't say that's influential off the court, but that definitely plays a part in him being remembered by as an NBA great.
See, he's great. Like D-Wade is great. He's a high flyer. He has iconic plays. But I think like the degree of cultural impact AI had sort of blows D-Wade out of the water in this regard.
Definitely,
Like
he's more
it's not even
impactful.
D-Wade's fault.
Hmm.
Yeah. And like also when we talk about this 05-06 chip, yeah, D-Wade's a monster. I'm not gonna like diss that achievement because that's another huge carry. Like he had Shaq and all, but Shaq had 13 points in the
Jack,
finals.
exactly,
Like,
yeah. He got outscored by
yeah. So
Antoine Walker.
hey, dude, like Anton Walker could shoot the three. Shaq's made one in his whole NBA career.
Yeah,
So
but Antoine
yeah,
had
like
13.7 to Shaq's 13.4. But
yeah,
yeah,
but
like, yeah.
firstly, that team is not as light as people mistake it to be. Alonzo Mourning averaged like 3 blocks
He
a
was like
game for
35
the
years
year.
old and he had like 9 minutes
I
a game.
agree. Offensively, dude, offensively, D-Wade killed it.
Hmm.
Killed it. Okay, not gonna argue against that. But
Hmm.
my point is just the team was not as light as we make it out to be, and the Mavs were not as stacked as we make them out to be either.
Also,
Right?
did Gary Payton win a chip that year? Like I think he was on
Yeah,
the,
Gary Payton was on the Heat. The
yeah,
glove
yeah.
was on the
But
Heat.
like he was 37 years old.
Yeah, the glove didn't really make a difference. Like I think he was there to
Yeah,
get carried to the chip, like because the glove deserves a chip.
that was,
But
yeah.
like, yeah, I just think that their path to the chip was pretty easy, dude. They played like the Chicago Bulls and all, led by who Kirk Heinrich and Ben Gordon.
No, they had to, but they did make it through Detroit that year. Who did have a lot of the same kind of players. They had Rip, they had Rashid, they had Ben Wallace. So like
I don't think Ben Wallace was as good in these years. I don't even know if he was there. I'm not sure.
he
But
was there. He
because
was there.
like all right. But he wasn't as good. Like I distinctively remember this because like he was losing some of his like utter toughness and shit. I get that beating Detroit is a big achievement, dude, but they weren't tested to 7 games in a single one of those series. Like the Mavs, in fact, had the harder path to the chip that year. Like they faced San Antonio in a grueling 7 game duel. The game seven ended in an OT and shit. So I'd argue they were tired also when they came to the finals. And I'm not taking any of this away from D Wade. Right?
By the
Like
way,
nonetheless, he
like a
won
lot
it.
of people, like I just have to mention this, but a lot of people give shit to to that final series and to D-Wade in particular because they think that the refs gave a lot of favorable calls to the Miami Heat. But like this was also the Dallas Mavericks team that could not guard athletic guards for shit. This is the same team that year who got outscored by Kobe in 3 quarters, 61-62. So like
Dude, that I'd credit Kobe more than fault them. Like, see, while this was true of them, they were one of the best defenses in the league statistically,
they couldn't
and
guard
Kobe did
perimeter.
this to
I don't
them.
think they could guard the perimeter at all, which is why like D-Wade and Kobe
It
had such an
depends.
easy time against them, like a better time against.
No, bro, it depends. See, they had players like Jerry Stackhouse coming off the bench. I think they had Jason Terry, who was like quite a savvy vet. They had players, okay. Like every time this happens with Dallas, where they have like a lot of small names, so people sort of like miss them. But that said, it was still like a pretty good team. So I won't take away from D-Wade's achievement. But on this topic of like foul trouble, right? The thing is, AI, there's this one ref, I forgot his name. Okay, like so what happened is this guy is notorious for like having problems with AI. Like he's just hated AI since day one. He gives calls against AI. AI spoke against him, has been fined for speaking against him. All of
I
this.
think I saw a clip very recently. In fact, today I think I saw it where AI is like he says there's some absolute bullshit being said. What the ref said didn't make any sense. He said, "Man, you got to play to the crowd and all." And AI is like, "Why are you looking at the crowd? Why ain't you refing the game?" He's like, "I'm doing it because you ain't doing it." And So it was
Dude, AI
quite
is fucking
shocking to
insane.
watch. But yeah.
Yeah, like the thing is, so basically, like what happened here is the refs sort of banded together and said, "Hey, like let's fuck with AI," because AI spoke against a ref openly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the refs felt that this was disrespectful to them, and so like they felt the NBA fining AI was a very light move because you just had to pay like $25,000, which is peanuts to an NBA stuff.
I mean,
So
yeah, but yeah,
they
went broke. So like that 25,000 would have helped him at some point, I'm sure.
maybe those last 2 years of college would have.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. AI is great. But that said, like the thing is, all these reps got together and decided to, give calls that weren't in AI's favor in one particular game between the
Mm.
Jazz and the Nuggets. This was in AI's Nugget days. And
Huh.
in this game, where they decided we're going to call it against AI shot more free throws than anyone else on either team. Because
You
even if you
can't.
call it blatantly against AI, he doesn't give a shit. He's going to go in there, he's going to get beat up. Right, he's gonna
Yeah.
openly draw the foul to a point where you can't do anything. You have to give him the foul,
Mm.
and that way I credit AI a lot. Like his scoring acumen to me supersedes D Wade's, even at D Wade's prime. Not for any fault of D Wade's, just because AI might be the greatest scorer we have ever seen. There's a
Yeah.
case to be made for that.
That's true. I think just to like to put up my case for D Wade, is the fact that okay, D Wade score as a scorer, he's eclipsed by AI, no question. Even I can't argue that, right? AI incredible scorer. I think D Wade actually is a significantly better defender than AI. Just maybe it is because of the height and the weight and like the athletic skill, but like I can't disregard that to say that AI was as good, even though he did lead the league in steals. And I think like I feel my point of D Wade being able to transition into a secondary co-star role is pretty important because of the fact that we've seen guys who have played incredible at the like as a co-star, right? We've seen guys who have played incredible as a primary star, but very rarely do we see guys who are able to do both. And I think that bellies a very high basketball IQ, right? A very high ability to play the game and understand the game. And like these are the reasons why I think D Wade is better than AI as a complete basketball player.
I mean, I can't like disagree with most of that because it's pretty true. Like
It's
D Wade
true,
is
yeah.
fucking great himself. But
Mm.
that's it. Like obviously, AI 11-time All Star, 4-time scoring champ. Like, dude,
Yeah.
4-time scoring champ is insane. If MJ didn't do this bullshit of winning every other
Yeah,
scoring title and making
yeah,
everyone's numbers look like crap, okay?
that's some fuck
Like,
shit.
because otherwise, 4 scoring titles is insane. In the
Man,
2000s, when
that's
you have
some
to win
fuck
them
shit.
against the likes of Kobe, Shaq, yeah,
Yeah.
AI sports titles are insane, but they look like crap compared to MJ. So I don't know, but 4 scoring titles is crazy. 7-time
Mm-hmm.
All NBA at that
Mm-hmm.
height and size is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
3 times steals champ. I mean, gotta highlight it. Even though
Mm-hmm.
like the league has seen more consistent defenders, but
Mm-hmm.
Allen Iverson was still bloody good at that and running the break. He was terrifying. Right,
Yeah.
he was great as a rookie. I think one of the better rookie campaigns we've ever seen. A hideously underrated rookie campaign
Insane.
where he crossed up
I
MJ.
think just for crossing up MJ, it'll be top three rookie
He
campaigns.
crossed up MJ and he broke a Wilt record of like having I think most consecutive 40-point games as a rookie or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
he did a bunch of like ridiculous shit. This
Mm-hmm.
dude was also a league MVP. D Wade never was. I think
Mm-hmm.
gotta add that. In 2000, 2001, this was when Shaq, Kobe, all these guys were like coming in their own. They were killing it. AI
Mm-hmm.
was the league MVP, these dudes, and I think that's like credit he definitely deserves. And for all of those reasons, I think that Allen Iverson, like, I wouldn't say he gets overlooked because for most people, he's one of their favorite players ever.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, he eclipses even other greats like D Wade in this regard.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right. Like I think,
So
yeah. So we leave it to you guys to decide who do you guys like better, Allen Iverson or D Wade. We hope we were able to bring some new light, new perspective on it. Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time with another edition of the same series. See you guys.